some lovely afternoon light coming through onto these trees, and we're going to see what image we can capture with the Canon R5 Mark II. Welcome back to another episode, and today we're going to talk about the Canon R5 Mark II. And is it any good to do landscape photography? Well, let's just discuss this camera quickly. It's got a 45 megapixel sensor that's backlit, so it has super fast writing speeds. It can take 30 frames a second. It's got the most advanced eye tracking and autofocus system, but in most of these specs doesn't actually help when you do landscape photography. The 45 megapixel sensor, a full frame camera, yes, for sure, but when it comes to landscape, if you're just going to be doing landscape photography, you don't need all these special features. Well, we're going to be taking a couple of images, landscape images with the Canon R5 Mark II, and let's see what images we get, what quality we get. I'll edit a couple of the images with you, do a basic Lightroom Classic tutorial, edit one or two landscape images and see how they come out like. So I've just finished editing the images. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Overall, I think the images came out pretty good. I expected a bit more dynamic range, possibly not as grainy, but overall very pleased with the images. So, if you're just going to be doing landscape photography, then I do not recommend this camera, as there are a lot of better options out there on the market. Even use cameras from reputable camera shops. Even the DSLR crop sensors like the Canon 90D, which is my first camera, and I would not let that camera go. It's a fantastic camera. It takes fantastic images, fantastic video. But if you're going to be doing wildlife and action sports and landscape photography, by all means, if you can get this camera, it's an excellent camera. But just landscape, no. Do your research. There are better options out there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I trust you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you very soon in the next episode. Cheers. Right, welcome to the next tutorial. An image taken today with the Canon R5 Mark II. This is the raw image, and the first thing we want to do once we imported it into Lightroom Classic is to click edit, crop, and we hold shift down to keep the proportions the same, horizontal and vertical. I just want to do a bit of a crop and tidy it up, I would say over there, and hit the edit button to get back in the basic mode. Right, next we want to introduce a mask to the foreground, just to create a bit of depth of field. So we're going to choose the linear gradient and draw in a gradient from the bottom, just to create a bit of depth of field leading the eye into the picture. And we will reduce the exposure, darkening the foreground to about there. The next thing I usually do in my workflow is adjust the vibrance and saturation in the global setting here on the edit tool. That means globally means adjustments to the entire image. So I like to push up the vibrance generally between 20 and 30, and I'd say up to about there is good, and then I go easy on the saturation to about 5. Next, I'd like to reduce the highlights in the global settings just to get a bit more detail in the sky. It's a bit overexposed, as well as the white yellow sections on the bark. They're a bit overexposed. We're going to get a bit more detail, so reduce the highlights down to about there. Right, next, calibration of the colors. It's under the global settings, edit settings here. Go down to the bottom, and we start with blue primary saturation, and we want to push it a little bit more to the right to about +4. And then the hues, we're going to warm it up a bit, take it a bit left to -5. Moving up to the green primary saturation, a little bit to the right to enhance those greens. And the green primary is the hues. We're going to darken those greens a little bit. And then the red primaries, we're going to warm it up a bit to the red side, and on the hues, a little bit to the left, I'd say to about there. And then the tint, can tone it down a touch to about -5. Now that we've done the calibration, we're going to go up and refine the colors and go up to the color mixer. And we're going to start with the saturation. And what I'd like to do is lift those greens even more. Increase the yellow slightly to warm it up. And the oranges as well. And the reds. Next is the luminance. And we start with the blues. And what I'd like to do is drop those blues to give a bit more detail to the sky. Aqua we're going to leave. The greens I'd like to drop to enrich the darker greens, because the picture is rather warm. Yellows, like to tone it down. It is a bit too warm, so we go to -20. And like the same with the oranges, just tone it down a bit to about -20, and the red we leave as is. Then we'd like to make adjustment to the overall temperature. And we're going to go with what Lightroom recommends. The tip here, just hold shift down and double click on the temperature. And it's taken it up to 5,500, which I'm pretty happy with. One last popping touch up here, there's a bit too much foreground and it's unbalanced with the sky. Last thing, I'd like to go down to the effects tab and just insert a minor vignette on the outer edges, just to give a little bit more focus to the central part of the image. And then lastly, in AI with raw files, you can denoise the entire image, which I have done because it takes a bit of time. It has already been applied. We're going to zoom into the image just to see what type of detailing we got. And just hold down Control Plus, and we're just going to zoom in. Overall, pretty happy, but it is a bit on the grainy side. Just keep in mind this image was ISO 100 f22 stop, and if I recall, a quarter of a second exposure, so there's enough light coming in. Overall, not too bad, but a little bit on the grainy side. That's basically a wrap. We'll just zoom out there quickly, and what I'd like to do is share a couple more images, recent images I've done on landscape, just for you to enjoy. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give me a big thumbs up. I really need the support, and I'll see you soon in the next episode. Take it away and enjoy the images. Cheers.